Hi, I'm Pastor Kurt, and this is your 5-minute Bible study. Today, we're going to look at Mark chapter 15, verses 42 through 47. This is the scene of the burial of Jesus. So we know about his crucifixion, and we know about his burial, and we know about his resurrection, and sometimes we kind of skip over the fact that he was taken down and buried. We want to jump ahead to the resurrection scene. But if we stay with this moment, we'll see a couple of really interesting things going on. First, we're used to the idea of Jesus being buried in a cave sort of tomb, not underground like our graves are today. But what we need to remember is that back then there were family tombs. So a family would have its particular tomb, and all of its family members would be buried in there. But the way it worked was that after someone died, their body would be taken into the tomb and laid on this shelf. And then after about a year or so, after the body had decomposed and only the bones remained, then the bones would be gathered up and put into a box called an ossuary, or just simply a bone box. And then that would be buried elsewhere. So that way, once the bones were removed from the tomb, then someone else could be buried in there. Someone else could be laid there on the shelf. Well, what we need to notice here in the scene of the burial of Jesus is that when he's taken down off the cross, he's just laid in a nearby tomb. There is no family tomb. Now, why is that? Why wasn't Jesus buried in his family's tomb? Well, if we look at what's going on right before Jesus is taken down from the cross, we hear that the bodies weren't allowed to be left on the cross during the Sabbath. And given that Jesus died on Friday and Sabbath was Saturday, they needed to take down the bodies and bury them quickly. So the burial of Jesus was kind of a rush job. They just had to get him down from the cross and bury him somewhere. When the women come to tend to the body, it's almost like they're tending to the body, or they were planning to tend to the body in the proper kind of way, right? There wasn't really time to care for the body after Jesus was taken down off the cross. He was wrapped up in the garments with the spices, but it's almost like he just had to get taken down off the cross and then put in the tomb before Sabbath started. What we also hear is that the person who did that is a guy named Joseph of Arimathea. Now, we're told that Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one, right? He wasn't among the inner 12. He wasn't among the ones who were known for following Jesus around, but he still considered himself on Jesus' side. And yet, even though he was a secret disciple, at the moment that Jesus died, when he needed to be buried, Joseph stepped forward. Joseph was no longer afraid to say, hey, I'm a disciple of Jesus. So what we notice here is that Joseph takes this risk to basically come out and publicly say that he's a follower of Jesus now. And he does so by helping to bury Jesus. Think today about ways that you care for others or others care for you. There's all kinds of ways, right? There's all sorts of ways that we show love to one another. But I want you to think especially about people who tend to the bodies of others. Maybe it's their bodies after they've died, like people who work in a funeral home, but it could also be those like nurses and doctors and caregivers, people who help those whose bodies just don't seem to work as well as they used to. Maybe they're ones who do things for this other person that some people might find degrading or humiliating or disgusting, right? When you're dealing with bodies, you deal with stuff like this. And yet, when this person cares for the other, they are saying, hey, I'm a disciple of Jesus, and I'm showing love by doing this for this person. This is kind of what Joseph was doing for Jesus, right? He was doing kind of the disgusting, unclean thing of taking this body down from the cross and burying it. So today, when we think of those who care for the bodies of others, we need to realize that that's also a way of showing love to Jesus too. It's a way of saying, hey, I follow Jesus, and I'm going to show that I love him by caring for you. There's your 5-minute Bible study for the day. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.